Process to Perform, helping you harness your potential on the way to greatness. I'm your host, Mike Wall. Thank you as always for listening. Again, please subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes, Spotify, and now iHeartRadio. You can check out our videos on YouTube /Unrivaled Systems or our blog on unrivaledsystems.com. Last week, we started an interview with Shervin Afani and Joao Fernandez, the founder and technical director, respectively, of the San Diego Football Center. We are going to get right back into that interview, finish it up. A lot of really good information, particularly if you're living in the San Diego County area or SoCal in general. So please have a listen and enjoy. So I talked to a lot of players, especially on my son's last club. The pathway for development in U.S. soccer is not clear to a lot of, at least, parents. And so, and because you've had this success now with placing kids with opportunities to go further, and these are all, remember, competitive kids, competitive environment with competitive families. But what do you see as the most viable pathway to success? And I suppose that the height of success is playing professional soccer, but playing, either it's professional or high-level college soccer or for either sex, male or female. What is the most viable pathway for success in the United States as you see it now?
The question for me or for Shervin?
You pick. You're both. Okay. I think you've both seen this firsthand.
I believe the thing here is we can talk about the competition, and I'm gonna strictly think about here in the United States. I think the structure of the competition, and here I'm talking about the context. So I think there is some steps that need to be done about this. Maybe I'm a little bit biased saying this because I came from a different reality, and I have to say the model works. The model works. It's simple, but the model works. So we have teams that are promoted, teams that are relegated. So it's all based in meritocracy, etc. So I think the context here is it's key. I don't know the level of the university teams here, divisions or competition. Yeah. I never seen. I don't know. But for me, what is most important here, as I said, is the context. Where the players are going to play against who is the coach. This is the most important thing here.
Joao, can I ask you a quick question? If let's say you are what's the pathway in Portugal for a 10-year-old that gets picked up by not FC Porto, but let's say the next level down at that club? What does that look like to a kid if that kid continues to find success? Because we don't really know what that looks like or feels like in the United States.
So, as an example, in Portugal, it's a small country, and that makes a very, very big difference. So it's the network of scouting. It's very easy to do there. Here, this huge country, is very hard to do scouting here and find the talents. So, the player there, it's a very simple thing. So the player is in a regular club, normal. The player stands out, and maybe in a game that they played against FC Porto, and the player stands out and do a very good exhibition. And then what they normally do, they follow the player for some games. They try to understand and investigate the player's environment and context. And then they will see if the player if that game was lucky, if that player is regular around among the season. So there is a lot of things they will analyze in order to see, okay, this is a good player that we need to go and invest, and we see some potential for him, and we can work this skills that they have. So what I'm trying to say is that normal situation, the player can be picked up by any scout around the world. So I think the country's season here, the size, it's complicated. And I talk with FC Porto scouts, and they don't have anyone here that can give them names or anything. It's very rare to find someone from Europe. As far as I know, in FC Porto there is none here. They might go to.
Did you give him my name?
What?
Did you give him my name? I'll scout for him. Easy.
Well, it would be good. It would be.
I got a handful of kids already.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. If you're ready
But
for that,
but
yeah,
the but the size of the country, that's the size of the country really is it's something we don't think about because we just take it for granted. But it probably does make it a little more difficult to find talent. See, in my sport, in American football, we just always tell players that it doesn't really matter what school you're at. If you're good enough, someone's going to find you. You're going to be on YouTube. Someone's going to videotape you. It's always kind of a pass off statement, but it really is. It's probably harder to climb through ranks here. One, when we don't have that system in place, especially, you could talk about the relegation system in Europe for days compared to what we do here. But two, we don't have the scouting services. We don't have the sophistication to actually go find these players. That's
Mike, Mike, there's another big issue here. In all other countries, specifically in Europe, there is an incentive for the lower level clubs to send players to professional clubs.
Mhm.
Because if that player gets sold down the line and it becomes a professional player and it gets sold, the little club that this player started with will get paid. In US, there is no incentive. So if I am in a pay to play club
Mhm.
and an MLS club wants to come and sign me, my club will be angry that why did I leave? Because there's money that's off the table now for this club. Now there is also, you can look at it in a different way. You can look at it and say, oh wow, these guys really are doing such a great job. They're developing and they're sending players to MLS clubs, so let's send more kids there. But they don't look at it in that way, and that's one of the main issues that has globally been there. Now hopefully some of these clubs are going to change their way of looking at it, because there's a short term and then there's a long term, and then you have to see who is first.
Mhm.
I don't believe in club or the coach being first. I read an article, I read a presentation by a club recently that they said that we teach them, the players, that it's the club mentality, that it's team first and there is no I in the team and all of that. To me, these are all fantastic slogans and they're beautiful things to say. They're very utopian ideologies. However, they're not real. The reality is this: the team is made out of a player. The players win. It's all about the player. It's all about the player development. It's not about the coach. It's not about the club. It's not about the team. It's not about the owner. It's not about me. It's not about Joao. It is about the players. And that's one of the reasons why STFC doesn't have any names on there. If you go there, there's nobody's name on there. We're non-existent, because this was done by design specifically from day one. It is not about anyone except for the players. You talk about the players going pro and one kid being found and all of that, and not all the players making it. Well, every player needs to give all they have, and you can say it's a pipe dream or not, but you have to go for your dreams. That's a part of being an entrepreneur. For every Google that has made it, there are tens of thousands of Googles that did not make it. Should no one go into startups, doing startups? Is that what you're telling me? No, you swing for the bat. Look at the percentage of kids that get into Harvard or Stanford. So should I not apply to Stanford? Should I not have a hope to go to Stanford or Harvard University? No, I do. And I will go for it. And if I don't get in, so be it. At least I took my shot. And this, again, these are all the complexities that come as a part of this process for the parents and the kids. So there must be an understanding that we have to go for it, and the clubs need to allow these players to go to the next level. But if the club is not interested and they want to keep the player within their system and the program, then it just won't work. And the reality is the MLS clubs have more support. They have more coaches.
Mhm.
It's not as much as the European side, but it's better at least. There's more eyes on the players, and there's a pathway to getting to the pro level at least. Now, if your goal is to not go pro and go to college, then probably after 17, you shouldn't even be in an MLS club. If you were at the MLS club and you think, okay, college is the route, then from there you can go to a local club that has put a lot of men or women into the college level, because that's again very important. You have to look at the clubs. There are some clubs here in San Diego, and I'm not going to name any of them. There are some that are specifically designed for the girls' side. They put more girls into college. And then there are some that are specifically designed for the boys. it's important to identify which one is which and select wisely as well based on that. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, you hit on a point that I wanted to bring up, and you and I have talked about this all the time. If an aspiring athlete is willing to put in the work, I think you and I are very similar. We both believe that we want to work with that athlete until either they decide or somebody decides for them that they've found the end of the road.
Right.
Because if you look at it as the process is really the reward, if you handle that correctly, it's not failure, because there's so many ancillary benefits of going for it, of completely buying in, of throwing caution to the wind and trying to find your passion through determination, discipline, routine development. But how do you approach, I mean, it's very scary for a family or a kid even to say, this is what I want to do. I'm not afraid to say I want to be a professional athlete, or I want to reach the highest level of soccer that I can. And for
Mike,
those kids, like how do you approach those families that have those high aspirations? You just
I'll tell you a story that kind of relates to this. There was I met a young man. He was 24 at the time, and he lived in the same apartment building as my mother. And my mother told me, oh, this guy, he loves soccer. You should talk to him. So he calls me up one day. We started talking, and finally he became very close. And he started to confide in me. And he said, look, I need your help. I said, sure. What is it? He said, look, when I started, he was living in Germany at the time, and he was in the Bayern Munich academy. And he was doing really well. And he gets to an older age, and his father gets cancer. So he comes back to US to be with the family and take care of him. So then, he didn't play at the competitive level. The Bayern did not want him back. So he stayed here. He played a little bit. Then he went and tried out for the LA Galaxy. Well, during the final cut, he injured his back. Well, they cut him. So he didn't make that cut as well. So he went to UCSD, studied pre-med, and finally he got into a medical school. And now he's 24 years old. And he was about to go to medical school. But he said to me, look, I have this itch for soccer. I need to go and play soccer because I am always wondering, what if I had gone? And my parents are going to disown me if I leave going to medical school and I'm going after this pipe dream of soccer. But look at what was going on in this young man's life, that he had this dream of accomplishing a dream, but things have come in his way, and it still was, that fire was in there. So I told him, I said, look, how much time do you have? He says, I have 9 months before I go to medical school. I said, okay. So I made some phone calls. We got him some tryouts in Portugal, got him some tryouts in Spain, and also in Croatia. So he went there, tried out. He got into a 4th or 5th division team in Spain. Okay. So this is a 24-year-old with zero match experience, right? So he got in there, and you know what they offered him? They offered him 1,200 euros a month plus the accommodations and food. And so he called me, he goes, oh my God, I got in. This is what they offered me. I said, okay, great. Now you know that you could have made it and be a professional player. You've made it, and you know this is the height of what you're going to get to. Now you have to choose. Do you want to go to medical school, or do you want to continue that dream and you want to live that lifestyle? And he said, you know what? I'm done. I accomplished what I wanted to do, because now I know where I would have been. Maybe I would have been a little bit higher, but at least I did it. I swung my bat, and I'm happy. And I think he's finishing his medical school this year. So
that's fantastic.
So to all those families, I mean, it is up to the kid, and we have to be supportive of our kids. And if they want to shoot for the stars, let's go for it. Why are we having limiting beliefs? What is it? Is it the 6-minute mile? Mm-hmm. It keeps getting broken, and every record is getting broken because we believe we have a ceiling, and that ceiling can constantly be broken. Records are there to be broken, and the mindset, the accomplishments in life are there to be broken, and we as parents are supposed to be supportive to the kids.
And Shervin, you certainly were supportive. Was it Massimo that was going up to TFA?
Yeah.
So you're going through that. And then, so I'd like to hear your perspective from both you and Joao. What, from a parent's standpoint, what should the expectations be regarding time served, if a kid's really competitive, like what should that week look like? How many hours training? Wow, when you're at a FC Porto club, how much time during the day are they spending towards soccer, and what different parts of the game make up that? Is it just practice? Is it practice in classroom, strength and conditioning? What makes up a day? Like how much time during the week should we be thinking about spending, not only at the club but also working on your own for a sport that you're this passionate about?
Mike, before Joao answers this, I'm going to just throw a little. This relates to an earlier comment that was made. That a question that you were asking. It is not a one size fits all.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in customization, because when it's a one size fits all, that means you're throwing a whole bunch of pieces into a box that only has a round hole. So only round pegs can get through it. But having a square peg doesn't mean you're bad. Well, having a triangular peg, it doesn't mean it's bad. So you need to adjust to that. There are players that they can train twice a day, 3 times a day, every day of the week. In fact, you talk about my son, he is that type of a player. If he has a day off, the next day he's completely destroyed. He's off completely. So for him, he would rather train every day than to have a day or two off. If he can train twice a day, he's comfortable with that. He loves it. And he can do some strength and conditioning, half of it, and then another half on something else. Then there are kids that if they're training every day, they will get burnt out and they get tired. Physically, they can't manage it. Although I believe that might be nutritional, because look, human beings, and especially kids, are adaptable. This is a part of our human nature. This is what whether you want to call it God, whether you want to call it our nature, whatever it is, we adapt. That's how we survive. We adapt in an environment where things are slow motion. We adapt in a very high-paced society lifestyle. Nobody dies. It's just adaptation. At the beginning, it's going to be difficult, and we adapt. That's the way that we know it. That's the way that we know life is going to be. So those who who are really involved, we have to listen to the kids, to their bodies. And I don't believe it's the responsibility of the coach, the club, or the parent, or anyone for that matter, to make the game fun for the kids. It's our responsibility to teach the kids to find the fun in the challenges and to find the fun in working hard. Your son, as a great example of it, he trains harder than anyone I've ever seen at every training, right? And he comes in there, he has a smile. When I tell him, Maddox, jog over here, Maddox's jog is like a Ferrari racing. And he doesn't understand when that it's okay for him to slow down. But it's not because he's trying to impress me. It's not because he's, oh my God, and he gets so exhausted and he doesn't have a smile. He has a smile on his face because he believes in his whole heart that he loves challenges. He loves to push himself. That's what you have taught your son. That is the most important thing, is for the kids to believe that challenges are a good thing, that being pushed outside of my comfort zone and sweating and getting exhausted, it is an amazing feeling. Whereas another one would teach them, oh my God, you're working so hard, and oh my God, he's going to get tired, and tomorrow they have school, and the next day they have this. And we were in Croatia, and the kids, we were training with Dinamo Zagreb, and the kids, they had a match at 8 a.m. playing for Dinamo. The training on Friday night finished at 10 p.m. By the time we get back to the hotel, shower and everything and eat, it was 12:30 midnight. Match is at 8 a.m. That means we need to arrive there at 7 a.m. The kids need to be there in the locker room at 7 a.m. That means we're getting up at 6 a.m. These kids did not die, actually. They thrived and they did really well during that week, during the 2 weeks that we were there.
Oh, we put limitations on the kids. The kids don't put limitations on them. So those are all learned behaviors, sure. And I'm completely in agreement with that.
Yeah, about the players' expectation, and I really love the Shervin story. It was really amazing, and I subscribe what Shervin said. And there is a simple phrase. It's like, if the player is dreaming about to be a professional soccer player, and he thinks to himself, "Oh, I will try this. I will see it, and if I don't make it, I have another thing." So any player that thinks like this is not gonna make it. It's gonna be very, very hard, almost impossible to become a professional player. The player has to have the 1000% focus and to become and spend all of his energies to become a professional player, because the chances are very, 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 very low nowadays. And I can give some examples to just to for you guys have a notion about how the filter right now is going. And I can say this is because I've been studying more in this quarantine time, and I heard some good friends that one of them is actually was Daniel Barrera from Barcelona, and the other one was Luis Campos. He was with Mourinho in Real Madrid, and now he's in Lille in France. So this guy Luis Campos, he shared with me some examples about how narrow is the scouting and the understanding and the click to become a professional player, and what they see about the player to go there. So considering all the factors that I talk, and also the decision making, etc., they also are very, very, very. They give a lot of importance in the players warm up. They can see and watch video about the players and that thing, but the real scout, the real thing, they want to see the player environment. The scouts work like detectives. They want to see everything about the player. They and most of the times it's not how many times the player touches the ball into the dribbles. Sometimes it's how the player interacts and how he adjusts the team dynamics, and how smart he is to do it, and his impact off the ball is having in the game. So for example, a player can stand out from the others from in 20 50 minutes touching the ball 3 times. A good scout can see that, the type of players that can really understand and create a good impact on that. So the warming up is another thing that some players, like, they don't give too much importance, but the real scouts, they saw that. And from my experience as a coach, warming up for me was an important moment in the game, because if I had, for instance, a sloppy warming up, I was always talking to my assistant coach, guys, be prepared because today is going to be a hard day for us. Things are going to be really slow, and we need to do a different approach maybe. So these things happens, and especially in the youth, they are not so constant. And the other thing, just this is very, very random, but just for everybody to know how the level is right now. That sport director from Lille, he used to go to when he's about to sign a player, he used to go shopping with him. I was like, wow. Oh, this is kind of random, but actually he wanted to analyze the player in a more informal situation. He was talking with him about soccer and etc. And for him, he was interested to see how focused the player are. Was he focused on my conversation, or is he focusing about the Nike store, the girls that are crossing him, etc. So he was trying to see how he reacts in this type of, because it's a lot of money involved and it's a big impact on the player. And he also gave an example, was also very interesting. He was really about to sign up a player in the table. It's like with the agent and the chairman, it was him, and the player was sitting down there, like in a very how can I say this, like with his hand over the hand, like
poor posture and whatnot. Body
the
language.
posture was not there, and he said, no, we don't want to sign this player. We want to cancel everything, just because of this thing. So
there's a lot of stories like that in the NFL draft where they go back and they're high on a draft pick, and they'll go back and they'll talk to like the janitor from their middle school, from 10 years ago. And they want to know what kind of kid that person was and how they treated teachers and how they treated the other students. And because we fall in love with we always fall in love with the physical, especially in America. We fall in love with the physical, but it's the competitive mindset. It's those non-negotiable character traits, the way that the presence that they have in the locker room, the kind of teammate they are, their willingness to take short-term pain for long-term gain. Those are all the things that carry somebody through. And like when I have conversations with kids and parents that are always, their kids want to aspire to be a professional athlete, I always tell them kind of what you just did, Joao, is you better not have an option B. I mean, you always have to say that you have an option B, but there better only be one thing in your mind, and that better be from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed is how am I gonna achieve this dream, because it is very, very competitive. Very,
It's
very.
obsession. It's obsession and immersion.
Yes.
These are two important things for the players to have to get to the highest level. And that doesn't mean that everyone should have this.
Mm-hmm.
And we have, as you know, many different levels of players at STFC. And it's okay. It doesn't mean that one is worse than the other. But that's why I tell you that there must be a customization. There must be a process. We can't treat everyone the same. It would be wrong. But that's the way that it's done globally everywhere. Everyone is thrown into a bucket. And whoever that comes out from the top, the cream rises to the top. But then maybe you're a slow learner, and we need to adapt and adjust to those players, because sometimes the diamonds, they're hidden. Sometimes some of those really, really, really good players, they don't have the personality. Maybe we need to teach them. Maybe they didn't have the right background, and now we need to have the patience to work with them, to teach them. Coachability is a very important part of this whole process as well, because if you're coachable, fantastic, we can add on to you. But if you walk in with an empty suitcase always, and this goes for coaches, and we've talked about this with Joao, there are many coaches that they come to us, but they're coming in with a full suitcase. If you're coming in with a full suitcase, you'll never learn. Joao is one of the most knowledgeable coaches I've brought here, and I've brought many of them. And I've had a chance to talk to many, many, many people. And the nice thing about him is his humbleness. We have a saying in Farsi that a tree that has many fruits on it, its head is bowed down. The tree that has no fruits, its head goes up straight. So those who are very cocky and they're very full of themselves are in fact people there's an emptiness. That's why you have to cover it up. Whereas if you're very knowledgeable, you don't need to prove any points. The big dog, small dog syndrome. A small dog sees a big dog, starts barking. The big dog sees the little dog, looks at it, and he walks away. He doesn't even care. And this is important. This is very important, both from a player's perspective and from a coach's perspective.
I can just say on behalf of my family and my kids, we're so very lucky that you have this program, this STFC program here, that's so focused not on as a profit center or anything else, but developing these kids as athletes, but also as humans. And you're so both very clearly passionate about the sport and the development of other people's kids. And that's a big deal. Like you guys are so passionate about developing other people's kids. It's a very rare quality. And Sherwin, for you to continue to run SDFC, Massimo's out of the program now. I mean, really, my hat's off to you. And I don't know really what else to say except for thank you. And thank you very much to both of you for coming on the show, because I think people need to know that there's something really special out there, especially in this community. But there's also largely more going on in U.S. soccer than maybe we see in our own neighborhood. So thank you very much both for coming on. Did you have any final thoughts that you wanted to throw in?
I'll add one thing though, to what Joao was saying about the players and the scouting real quickly. And what he said is so important about based on the needs of players. We take players to, Europe or to Mexico, and we showcase them. And it's about finding the right fit. It's not about finding a next Leo Messi. It's about it's almost like dating. It's almost like a guy comes in and wants to marry your daughter. Your question to them is, what are your intentions? And you need to find the right match for the two parties. If you might be a great coach and this player might be a great player, but if you're not the right fit, just like a man and a woman, they might both be amazing people, but their rhythms are off. they won't match one another. For us, it's about finding that right match wherever these kids go. And as a great example of that, we took a number of kids to Croatia. As from all of these, there were two of the kids that they were interested in signing, and they said, "Look, we would pay for them every 3 months for them to come to Croatia," and they put a plan of action for them from how they're going to pepper them in into the U17s, into their B team, and into their first team as these kids go in through the process, and what are the challenges that they will be facing, and so on and so forth. Now, there was one player that was very good, but they didn't like him. Joao sent some of the videos also, and we talked to one of the scouts at Sporting CP. Sporting, out of all the players that we sent the information to them, liked one of the kids, and this was one of the kids that was not liked very much by Croatian teams. But this kid, they said in the Sporting CP, they said, look, this kid has the characteristics that we want. We have a similar characteristics as this in our 07 and youngers. We have similar characteristics in our 03s and olders, but in our 06, 05, and 04s, we don't have a characteristic like this. We're offering him a 3-year contract to move to Sporting CP, which is the only club in the world that has 2 Ballon d'Or winners, Cristiano Ronaldo and Luis Figo. And I mean,
Irvin, do you act as an advocate for a lot of these kids? I mean, you know, in other sports they have agents, and I know they have agents in soccer, but at a young level, is it the parents driving the bus here, or do you spend a lot of time with that because you have the background and the knowledge?
I do spend a lot of time with these kids, with the parents, with the clubs, with Joao, and anyone else that helps us. And this is not for us. We have no financial gain out of this thing. It's not as I told you, soccer for me is a passion project. My goal is to help every kid that I can to reach their dreams. So this is something that we do all the time. When we see players, when we see that they're ready, we start introducing them to the international travels. I check their personality, see when they're ready. And as a part of that process, there are a lot of challenges that we give them on purpose. Sometimes we throw in some rocks along the way to see how they manage through those hurdles. And then we take them through certain personal leadership processes. And once I feel comfortable enough, now we're ready to take them to the next level, which means leaving home and going on your own, basically. And then we have to look for the right club, right coach, and the right environment.
And the world is your playground at that point, isn't it?
Exactly.
Mike, I would like just to say 2 things very quick.
Yeah,
Is that possible? Yeah, because you asked, I would just give an example about what Kevin said about the right match. And if we remember about Ibrahimovic, everybody knows that he's a very, very good player, but he didn't make it in Barcelona. There was an example about a very good player that was a fish, and he found out that everything was trees, so he couldn't climb trees. He's a fish. So he was like uncomfortable. So the context there was weird for him. So
I don't know if that's a Portuguese reference, but that was that definitely made my day, if not my week. I love that. I love that
analogy.
That was, oh man.
The other thing was very important that you asked about the family, and just to end, as much time practice as you can, it's very, very important. So and are the words from my friend from Barcelona, and I agree with him. As much time practice you have with the ball by himself, by doing a lot of stuff, whatever, you can sleep with the ball is also good. It also helps. But as much time as you can, it's absolutely important. In FC Porto, you had a lot of time of practice with the kids, and some of them had extra work to do at home and stuff from Pepine, and do some dribbles and send some videos from them doing some skills, etc., like doing some championships. For example, we did something before the training start, like challenging how many tricks you can do with the ball. So there's like micro societies inside the groups that they can do. They can challenge themselves. We know we were kids. We were always trying to compete with each other and try to beat each other. Hey, I'm better than you on this and that. So the kids during this environment, they will find out how to do it. And of course, the coach and the club can promote this type of activities with the players. And to finish, there is a study about the time of practice. a Portuguese study that shown that the top clubs in Europe, it's proven that they have a lot of time of practice. Some clubs it's 5 or more days per week just doing practices. So this is related with the player development, of course. So this is an important thing that I wanted to share with everybody. Is like sleep with the ball.
Yeah, I mean, you always hear that, and it's the thing that's tough about all these sports is everyone has aspirations, but it's like the old saying: everyone wants to die, but nobody wants, or everyone wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die.
Yep.
It's like the what you have to put yourself through, and it's not a negative, but the sacrifices, the decisions that you make, the time that you spend with the ball, for example. I talk to a lot of parents who are like, oh, well, it's just an afterthought that their kid's going to be a professional athlete. And I'm like, I always think it's just, I don't, maybe they're just telling me that because I was, and maybe they just think it's like, easy to do. But I'm always baffled because I go, well, if your kid is not living and breathing this, there's like 1% of the 1% who are like Shaquille O'Neal, physically gifted enough to just do whatever they want and still play professional sports. The rest of us, this is a lot of work. It's a lot of fun, and there's a lot of gratifying things that come with it, and ancillary benefits that come with all of it, but it's a lot of work. And if you're not passionate about it and doing it every day, that's okay, but set your expectations for what your behaviors are. I love it.
Well, if you think about it really, Mike, math solves all problems.
Mm-hmm.
If you figure there are, let's say, 8 leagues that they play decently all over the world, soccer leagues, right? So let's say 10 leagues, okay? Let's say 12 leagues. Each league multiplied by 2 because first and second division, okay? And in each division, we have 20 teams, which means 40 teams, right? So let's say if we have 20 leagues, so 20 leagues times first and second division, right? Then you have 40 teams altogether. And okay, that's 800 teams that are available. That means at best you have, if you're playing in a position, if you're, let's say, goalkeeper, right back or a left back or a defensive midfielder or an attacking midfielder, maybe there are 2 spots, right? So 1,600 in that case. If you're one of the strikers, okay, multiplied by 3, 2,400 spots. But there are tens of millions or hundreds of millions of players all around the world. So there is scarcity. And that doesn't mean that you pull others down. That means you help all one another to rise up. And then the one that can persevere, the one that becomes the best, the one that they can take those spots will get it, because it's not about all of them that are in the same book, in the same area. It's all ages from 16 to 34 that we're looking at fighting for these 800 spots.
Yeah, that's a very good point. That's cruel math, but it's good to hear.
It is. So it's not about you being better or worse and loving. No, it's pure math and scarcity. That means you have to raise your level so high because you're not competing with the kids in San Diego. There is nothing here that you're competing against. You're competing to be ready when you're 16 or 18 or 20 to go out into the real world out there. We're in a little pond here. US is a small pond.
Especially when it comes to this sport.
Yeah.
So that wraps up our time with Sherman Afani and Joao Fernandez of the SDFC San Diego Football Center. Thank you so much again to those gentlemen for taking the time to talk to us about their program. It is a very, very special, differentiated program from at least anything I've ever seen. If you want to learn more, please visit sdfc.academy. You can always check them out on Instagram at SDFC Academy, or, of course, on Twitter at SDFC Academy. Hope you enjoyed the interview. I really have a lot of respect for those guys, and I love talking with people that are as passionate about developing our aspiring athletes as Shervin Joao are. Makes you want to go out and just do a little more for the community, I guess. Thanks for your time. This is Process2Perform. I'm your host, Mike Wall, and we'll see you next week.